Okay, this is Unit L, Part 1, and I'm just going to try to do this unit a little differently as a different option for some of you if you're having difficulties with the other screencasts, just a fill-in-the-note type overview of the unit. So let's go. The first part of this unit, we're going to look at the structure and functions of the airway. But before we do that, we need to consider, well, what is respiration anyways? And when we think of respiration, we think of breathing because that is the part that we are aware of, and we should know, hopefully, that breathing is when we inhale and we exhale air. And we want to emphasize the idea of air. It's not oxygen, it's air. But there's three other parts to respiration. There is external respiration, which is going to be the exchange of O2 and CO2 between the air and our blood. So this is what's happening in our lungs. Internal respiration is also going to be exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, but it's going to be between the blood that is delivered to our body tissues and the surrounding cells. So the same exchange of the same gases, but they're going to be going the opposite way. And this is really inside our body. Cellular respiration, as hopefully we remember, is the chemical reaction, and this is the last of the four parts. So part 1, breathing. Part 2, exchange of oxygen for carbon dioxide. Part 3, we exchange the oxygen, goes into our body cells, leaves our blood, and carbon dioxide exits our body cells and enters our blood. The last part, cellular respiration, is when we take the oxygen that was delivered, we combine it with glucose to produce ATP energy, and the waste gas that will get taken away, carbon dioxide. So the first part of this system is our airway, and this is going to be breathing, what we're familiar with. So inhalation is bringing air in, and again, emphasis on air, not oxygen. Exhalation is breathing, letting air out, and again, it's air, it's not carbon dioxide. So air enters the nasal passages. It is here that we have hairs and we have mucus, which will trap and filter debris out of the air. The air is also warmed up by the capillaries that are here, and it will be moistened. So we're warming and moistening. The warm and moistened air passes through the pharynx, so that we remember is the dual passageway, the back of our mouth, our throat, and the nose contains two nasal cavities. They are separated by a wall called the septum, just like we had in our heart. The nasal cavities are connected by two tubes to the tear ducts, which is why you get a runny nose when you cry. And they also connect to the ear through the eustachian tubes. Special ciliated cells at the top are where we pick up scents, so chemoreceptors. When we breathe, the glottis or epiglottis is the flap of skin that covers the opening to our larynx, which is the top of our trachea, our airway, or the voice box. And when we swallow, the epiglottis covers the opening. So the epiglottis is what covers the opening, the glottis, if we want to be technical. The air enters the larynx like a triangular box. It has in front of it the Adam's apple that you can see on the outside of your neck. Elastic ligaments called vocal cords are stretched over top of the opening, and these cords vibrate when air passes over them. So depending on the thickness of your vocal cords, and men obviously have thicker vocal cords, thus giving them a deeper voice. So the air then enters the trachea. The trachea is held open by cartilaginous rings that you can feel on when you feel your windpipe, and the trachea is also lined with cells that produce mucus and produce cilia. Smoking, one of the many risks of smoking, destroys or burns off the cilia. So tracheotomy is when an incision is made into the trachea below a blockage. So this is if you're choking to death, and then a tube would be inserted into that opening that was made in your trachea to allow you to access the air on the outside. So the trachea then divides into two bronchi, which then branch into many, many smaller passages called bronchioles. So the bronchioles will continue to branch out, and as they do, their walls get thinner and thinner, and they get narrower in diameter. Each bronchi ends in small sacs called alveoli, which fill up most of your lung volume. They are approximately 300 million alveoli per lung. So that's a lot, giving you a lot of surface area, and this surface area is for gas exchange, so just thinking of that. Each alveolar sac is enclosed by a single layer of cells, which is surrounded by capillaries. So there are many capillaries that are carrying deoxygenated blood here. Gas exchange is going to occur between the blood and the air in the alveoli. The alveoli are lined with a thin film of lipoprotein, and this lipoprotein is just to prevent the alveoli from collapsing on themselves. So let's go to this diagram here on the right. So the air, we remember air, not oxygen, would be entering. W would be a bronchiole. And the small sacs that X is pointing at, these would be alveolus, or alveoli, plural, alveoli. So one of them would be alveolus. And covering all of these would all be the capillaries. And this is then where the gas exchange of external respiration is going to occur between the air in the alveoli and the blood in the capillaries. So let's just finish this off. So let's go down to the diagram and label that up quickly together before we end off on the first part. So reviewing the airway would be number 1, the nasal cavity. Number 2, the back of the mouth or throat. Number 3, the voice box, larynx. Number 4, the airway, trachea. Number 5 is a lung, the left lung. Number 6, bronchioles. Number 7, plural, P-L-E-U-R-A-L, plural, I know, you know what? Sorry. No A, let's start all over again. P-L-E, it just looked wrong. The plural membrane. These are membranes that seal the lungs. Number 8, alveoli. And number 10, the muscle that separates the thorax from the abdomen, the diaphragm. Okay, hope that helped.